Cal, I want you to kick us off with the intro.
Ryan, I actually think that you should do the intro.
I'm not going to say my intro until you reveal that you have no intro first. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Play with Power podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things CEDH, EDH, and Magic the Gathering. I am your host, Ryan.
And I am your host, Callahan. And today we are going to be talking about priority bullying. What is it? Why has it been the topic of conversation in the last week or so? And what can be done about it? But first, we've got to pay the bills.
Tickets for our latest Mox Masters tournament are on sale now. Compete for $2,000 in prizes and points towards our invitational coming this October. Tickets sell out for each event, so pick up yours today. Our merchandise is also available in our store. We have dice, coins, tokens, playmats, sleeves, and more all available. Go to playingwithpowermtg.com and help support the channel. You can also support us on Patreon. Patrons get access to our Discord, webcam league, play days, early access to videos, names in the credits of our show, exclusive videos, merchandise, and the ability to be on an episode. There are tiers for everyone, so go to patreon.com/playingwithpowermtg and help support the show. Also, if you are looking to also sponsor the podcast, please reach out to the email in the show notes.
And as always, on every episode, we have a Patreon shout out. And on this episode, that is Matthew Riddle. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew. You're the best.
And of course, we're now back to our main topic for this episode, which is priority bullying. Of course, I think kind of the first thing we have to do is define priority bullying, because that's definitely more of like a shorthand. You know, when you're priority bullying, you're not really bullying somebody. You're trying to exploit a loop in the rules that allows you in a multiplayer game to create a new round of priority by taking any action. Because of the way that Magic the Gathering has to work, if anyone takes any game action, which includes tapping a land to create mana, because that is an action. You're activating a mana ability. It creates a new round of priority, technically. We do a lot of hand waving around this a lot of the time. You know, we're not passing priority every single time somebody taps a land if there's already something on the stack, because that's what the game engine is doing. There's a new round of priority every time somebody is doing anything, anytime there's already something on the stack. However, this is basically works that way to make 1v1 Magic work the way that it's supposed to. I've talked to judges about this in the past, and if the Magic the Gathering didn't work that way, it would kind of break accidentally. They haven't found a way to fix this, and they're not really that interested in fixing it. But how this manifests in multiplayer Magic is that since there are, 4 people at a table, what you can create situations where I am the person first in priority order after a spell has been cast, and I have interaction in my hand, but I'm not really interested in using it. So I'm going to pass around to the rest of the table and try to fish out interaction from them because, well, I didn't use my interaction. If they don't use their interaction, they'll lose the game, but they don't know I have interaction. So if we get back around to the last guy and nobody has an interaction, we can just get them to like tap a land or something or make mana or literally do any game action, and then it'll come back around to me and I can stop us from winning the game. That's kind of my definition of priority bullying. That was kind of a long, but it's kind of a weird and convoluted topic, all based around an accidental kind of loophole in the rules compared to how multiplayer Magic works. Ryan?
Yeah. So, when the sixth edition introduced the stack, and got rid of things like interrupts and stuff like that, that's when we had the idea that everyone will have priority. And I know that there's nuances and changes as over the 30-year history of Magic, or more specifically, the 25-year history of the stack. But basically, multiplayer formats weren't really considered when they were talking about these rules. And just like you said, there was an ability that we've discovered that could be exploited, for lack of a better word. And that's essentially, hey, here's this particular I have, I'm trying to play to the best of my ability. Well, I'm against 3 opponents. I don't have interaction for all 3 of them, but we all might have interaction for each other. So why don't I get my opponents to spend their resources before I spend mine, therefore having a greater opportunity to win. That's why, sometimes you might hear in, content that you see online or whenever you're watching a live stream of CEDH happening, you'll hear people say, oh gosh, I'm last in priority order. And what that basically means is that they know that people are going to pass to them, and they're the only person who's kind of like the last savior, if you will, to save a problem from happening or a win attempt on the stack or something to that effect. And so it's actually pretty well known that this happens, that priority is a thing and that you don't want to spend your interaction if you don't have to. And you'll hear conversations about it all the time. Well, I'm first in priority order, so I'm going to always pass to the next person unless I absolutely have it. And then I will actually have conversations with the table that say, do you have anything for this? Do you have anything for this? We're dead if we let this resolve, kind of stuff. These types of conversations are talking about, who has the interaction. Therefore, it gives you more information to know who to pass their priority to have. And there's so much complexity to this, and there's so many things you can do. But there's a reason that this has come up lately. There's a reason that priority bullying has come up, and it is something that happened recently at our Mox Masters tournament. So, Callahan, what happened at Mox Masters?
So this is what happened. Imagine, if you will, with me, a Magic the Gathering game, CEDH. Player 1 casts a Grand Abolisher. Well, that's pretty scary. If a Grand Abolisher resolves and they have a known win, which I believe they did, then the game's just over because we can't interact with their known win anymore. Player 2 has a Mindbreak Trap in hand,
revealed from a
known revealed Mindbreak Trap in hand with the ability to cast it. So, this isn't a cut and dry type of thing here. Countering the Grand Abolisher isn't going to end the game, but it will at least prolong the game. It isn't going to end the win attempt, rather. But what it will do is give the rest of the table, kind of some more breathing room to interact. And there was some kind of politicking going on at the table. Player 2, even though they had a known Mindbreak Trap, wasn't exactly interested in casting it. They were saying to, in classic fashion, poor player 4, I believe.
Players 3 and 4, yep.
Players 3 and 4, they were kind of just like, well, I'm not going to cast this Mindbreak Trap unless, well, I know you have a Thrasios activation and you have mana. I think you have interaction. I don't really think you've been interacting much this game. I assume you have some. And I'd like to see what your Thrasios gives you before I cast my Mindbreak Trap. And entirely, I believe, well within their rights, player 4 said, if you pass to me trying to make me use up my resources before you use your encounter, I am simply going to pass on this Grand Abolisher as the 4th player, not creating another round of priority or whatnot, and we're gonna lose the game. Which it's a pretty it's not a prisoner's dilemma. I've seen people calling it a prisoner's dilemma. It is in fact another classic game theory situation, perhaps one of the most classic situations, which is chicken.
Yep, it's chicken.
These 2 players were playing chicken with each other. And, so we have known counterspell against the Grand Abolisher, or we have player, which it was revealed after the fact that this player did actually had interaction in hand. They had, I believe, a Force of Will and a Swan Song or something to that effect, which at least would have, countered the Grand Abolisher themselves. But they said straight up to the player, if you pass to me without using your Mindbreak Trap on this Grand Abolisher, I'm going to pass and we are going to lose the game. And player 2 decided to call their bluff on that, and they ended up losing the game because of it. They lost the game of chicken. And as a result, both of them lost the game. But player 4, even though they had interaction in their hand, held to their word and lost out on. I will say it was a $250 decision.
Because the winner gets and so a little more context around this. This was the finals.
Yes, this was the finals of
this
Mox
wasn't
Masters
round
May,
5
yes.
competing for top 16 and maybe getting a little bit of prize money or not getting it. This was the difference between $200 and $500. So it was a $300 difference.
decision.
They talked ahead of time. They agreed not to split. They just wanted to play for it. So that's not an insignificant amount of money depending on who you are. And that was a $300 decision that they had to make, and they made it. And that's why there's been a bunch of hubbub around the internet, if you will, about it. Before we go any further, I want to show a clip of kind of that interaction that happened. We have the live stream recording, which has our commentators, but there's also a recording of it because we encourage everyone in our webcam tournaments to record all of their games just to make sure it dissuades any sort of cheating or anything like that. This person actually posted their results on YouTube, and we're going to show that clip to you now. We'll abridge it a little bit. We won't show you the whole thing, but we'll show you a couple, we'll show you a couple of minutes of it.
Idolatry?
Very cool.
Yeah, Ping, do you want to let me know what you have? Are we dead?
No. Are we dead?
Ping, I mean, I guess I counter this. Ping, I mean,
what
are we doing? What are we doing here, my guy? Yeah, we're gonna die otherwise. Do you want me to just pass priority?
Cards and Gary, how many cards you got? 2, 3, 4?
4.
Four. One of them.
Well, we're dead on board. Right?
Yeah.
We're dead on board.
Yeah, you got your MBT. You got this.
I mean, do you have anything? I'm not gonna cast it if you don't have anything. Like, it's up to you. You can activate your Thrasios right now if you want. It's up to you, my friend.
No, because I can handle the dock side, but
don't we want the dock side to be exiled more than the Grand Abolisher?
I'm taking the risk that you don't have a breach.
I mean, it's I would say
or reanimate, right?
You could be activating the Thrasios and reset priority, but I don't know, man. I think this is a little sus.
I
think you should cast your MBT.
I know you think that, but I think
there's a curio out. We save Mindbreak Trap for the dock side.
Yeah, so I will. You have a Thrasios activation if you want it, or someone can reset priority. But I think I'll.
The thing is, if I deal with the Grand Abolisher, which I'm not saying I can, but theoretically, if I deal with the Grand Abolisher, he will not be dumb enough to cast the dock side. Then you still have your MBT, and he still has his dock side.
Right.
Yeah. Which means he doesn't ever go off if Freedom holds holds MBT.
Yes, I know you want to sandbag your interaction here, but we're gonna die.
If you pass prior, Waffles, I will also pass prior.
Oh my God.
He's just trying to get you to waste the Mindbreak Trap, and then he can win.
He is. Yeah. I mean, you're kind of the one who gets screwed here, so
you gotta pass here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
my final answer.
Cool. I mean, if you want to lose the game, it's fine. But if you have something, you can reset priority, do whatever you want. But
the best.
Either way, regardless.
Mindbreak Trap
regardless, I am passing priority on Grand Abolisher. You can reset priority if you want. Try whatever you want to do, but it's not. I mean, if you tell me what you have, I will interact. I'm down. But you have to do something.
You're passing. You said.
Yeah,
are you passing? That's final.
I passed priority.
I passed priority.
I will.
Well, no. Yeah, Goblin, you have to. Ping. I mean, I'm gonna keep passing priority until you do something.
Same.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's
what?
Cool.
What? You're just giving him the game.
He has a Thrasios activation.
Yeah, I'm saying, just use your Thrasios.
Why are you giving him the game?
Yeah, I don't understand, dude. Literally, just tell us.
I'm
sorry. I shouldn't. It's all good. But I'm gonna pass priority one more time.
Hold on. I am the last person to have prior, right, Judge?
No, I am the last person who has priority. Oh, I guess with the tap.
No, you tap mana.
You have.
So are you sure, Waffle? You will pass. I will pass as well.
I mean, you can activate Thrasios if you want to lose, but it's up to you, my friend.
No, you have the MBT.
That's not.
You have a Thrasios activation. He has something. I already know. I'm not gonna.
So, Judge, am I the last person to have prior since Goblin fought? I am. Okay, Waffle. If you pass, I will also pass.
Cool. I mean, it's up to you, my friend. You could do something or not.
You said that 5 times.
Last chance to tell me what you have, or I'm gonna be passing otherwise. I'm down to use this Mindbreak Trap, but you gotta give me something, or it's up to you because I feel like you have something. You might have
I don't think I want to share. No,
okay, cool. Then I'll pass priority.
Yeah, you got AGA.
All right. So now that we have a little bit more context of what was going on, let's kind of dive into what happened here. So first of all, what are people saying about this? So what exactly is it that people have been discussing now that we know what the topic is? We kind of know what priority bullying is. What have people been saying? What have people been reacting to this, Callahan?
Yeah, in classic fashion, the reactions have kind of been all over the place. I think at first kind of came to light as like people were like, whoa, that's crazy. Somebody actually called somebody else's bluff and lost, and this person just passed priority and let the game end, right? Whoa, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of the stuff that you hear people threatening about. Like, I've threatened people like that when we're just like jamming CEDH. I'm like, bro, don't even mess with me. I'll pass and we'll lose the game and we'll shuffle up again. I've said that to people a lot of times, and they usually don't call my bluff on it because I get it. Like, this is a tournament situation where if this person calls the other's bluff, they're betting that the person wants their chance at that extra $300 more than they want to hold up on, I will make us lose, But when it really kind of popped off in the greater space was when I guess there was like some leaking of DMs or from a Discord server of said player 4 talking to friends or somebody about the fact that, yeah, LOL, I passed with a force of will in hand, LMAO, that guy got blown out, LOL, don't play games with me, etc., don't do that shit with me type of thing, right? And that kind of upset people a lot. There were a lot of people, kind of both sides of the fence. There ended up kind of almost being two camps. They're just like, yeah, that guy was entirely within his rights to just simply pass on the spell, even though he had an interaction in hand, because he told the guy with known counterspell, if you pass instead of casting your known counterspell, we will lose the game because I'm going to pass priority. And there were also people kind of on the other side of the fence who are like, this guy didn't act competitively. He didn't cast interaction that he had and like knowingly threw the game. Knowingly through the game rather than acting in the most competitive sense and acting to win the game. And I think that is kind of a hard conversation to be had. Before a little bit of behind inside baseball or whatnot. Before the podcast, Ryan was like, "Cal, what do you think about the topic? What have you thought about this conversation? Just so I'm not blindsided." And I was like, Ryan, I have the terrible curse of actually being able to see where people are coming at it from both sides of this, right? Because yeah, I get it. I don't know if I could, carry through on my promise to not counter your stuff. If for me, the difference between $200 and $500 is a lot for me, right? Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to, and I get it. Like, is it the most competitive action to simply let yourself lose the game? I don't know. Maybe it's the longest term competitive action because now people know that you're holding to your word. Maybe it's the longest term EV play. There's been a lot of conversations around lying and not lying and holding to your word in CEDH games and how it can affect your long-term EV. And I think that this also fits into that larger conversation, which is always a doozy. But that is what people have been saying. There kind of has ended up being two camps about this situation. One saying, yeah, that guy called his bluff, and the other guy stood his ground, and oops, they all lost because the guy played a dangerous game and lost. And there's the other side that said, oh, with the known information of this other guy, player 4 also having a force of will in hand, he threw. That's not competitive. This is Bush League stuff, etc., etc.
There's a lot to be said about integrity of the game. There's a lot to be said about being bullied, and a lot to be said about bullying in general. And there's a lot to be said, like you said, about the long-term EV. He's playing, that person is playing a much longer game. They're like, yeah, I'll throw this tournament now. Not throw. I'm sorry, that's the wrong word. I will roll the dice on this now and basically say, now everyone's going to know that will never happen to me because I will lose $300 to show that it never happens to me. That's quite a stand to take. And this is where things get hairy because The problem with this is that, like you said, there are two different sides. There are two different camps that you can be in. You can be in the side that says this is the best call. There's the people that do this all day, every day, that say this is the best call. You let everyone else spin their interaction, then you have the most to actually try and win on your turn. It increases your percentage points of winning. And then there's the ones who talk about things like the integrity of the game. It's saying, hey, this is kind of bad manners, if you will. And, doing this kind of stuff, knowing that what you have kind of puts you in a bad light, especially when you're being broadcast on, Twitch. And this is, this is a tournament. This isn't, kitchen table. This isn't a local night with no stakes at your LGS. And so there's a lot of different varied opinions on this. And there's a lot of different approaches that you can have to this. And like you said, there's two different camps to it. But all that being said, it's time to talk about what each of us think about this.
Yep.
All right.
Certainly.
So, Cal,
Yep.
what do you think about this? Your opinions about this? We already know the camps. We already know why. We know everything about it. We got the context. What do you think?
Well, I think my thoughts have actually been fairly well summed up by a tweet by the ever insightful Brian Koval. I'll send it to Zach. Hopefully Zach can throw it up on the screen here for our video viewers, but I'll go ahead and read it. It says, in light of mana bullying discourse, the spirit of the rules is an idiot and should be mocked. Any exploitable loophole is his own stupid fault. The spirit of the format is a precious angel which must be defended, even if that means throwing a tournament finals to make a point. And kind of what I think Brian is getting at here, which he did a decent bit of clarification and discussing with people in the comments and whatnot. But he says mana bullying correctly shits on the spirit of the rules because he sucks and deserves it. Passing priority as a player who passed priority rather than getting priority or mana bullied or whatnot correctly defends the spirit of the format by being petty instead of playing to your outs. Which, I mean, I get it. But Brian also then later says that he thought that both player 1 and player 2 in the situation were crazy. I'm casting my spells no matter where I am, which is where I end up at the end of the day. I think if I was either of the players, I simply would have cast my counterspell because I don't like losing. But I also agree with Brian Koval in that I think when it comes to these kind of discussions, I think it is better for us to defer to something like the spirit of the format and whatnot, in that I think it kind of rules that somebody was just like, nah, I'm not going to let you use this tiny little loophole in the rules that happens to just, the way that Magic has to work is kind of very slightly incompatible with multiplayer games in this one little way. I'm not going to let you do that to me. So, and I'm going to I want you to cast your spells instead of force me to cast my spells. So you know what? We can lose this game. I just think that kind of is awesome. I personally would not have made the same choice in either of those player seats, just like Brian Koval said. But I think at the end of the day, I think that just rules. That's what I think about this situation, Ryan. I've become more and more of a spirit of the format defender. I think people should just cast their spells. Will I still be passing priority without talking as the first player in priority order a lot? Sure. But will I ever be passing with revealed counterspell in hand, trying to bully somebody else? That bully is the wrong term. Trying to get somebody else, trying to bait out interaction from other people? No. So I think both players made suboptimal game decisions. I just think that the person Ping who ended up passing priority and making everybody lose the game was wildly based. That's about where I'm at, Ryan.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Card Conduit. Do you have extra cards lying around that you don't use? Want to buy or trade for some extra cards but don't know how to maximize the value? Then you should try out Card Conduit. Card Conduit is the best service when it comes to selling your extra cards. Don't waste hours trying to find the best buy list price for your cards online. Simply send them to Card Conduit and let them take care of the rest. I've used Card Conduit multiple times already. I always use them to get the best value of my extra cards. I get fair prices for my cards and they save me tons of time. They have 3 main services. Their standard service lets you send them unsorted cards of any value. They will sort, grade, and give you the best buy list price for your cards. Their curated service is similar. Send them your unsorted cards worth over $1 in value. They will charge half of the fee of the standard service and charge no fee per card. Their new sorted service is a great value as well. Choose cards in advance with their selection tool, send them sorted to Card Conduit, and they will grade and buy list them automatically. Save yourself the time of having to send to multiple sites and let Card Conduit do it instead. Their fee is only 2% with no fee per card. They give you the best price for your cards. They work with competitive buy listing partners, including ones not open to the public. Users get an average of 19% more for their collection than they would have from a major retail buy list, even with Card Conduit's fees. Card Conduit also optimizes buy listing for card condition as well. Since vendors have different penalties for wear and tear, Card Conduit will find the best buy list price against the specific condition of a card. So give Card Conduit a try today. If you sign up with my link in the show notes or the description, or use the promo code POWER, you'll also get 10% off their fees when you use their service. A big thanks to Card Conduit for sponsoring today's podcast. So this, like I've been saying all episode, this is a complex subject. So I think that obviously there's more than 2 decisions, and, short form content on things like Twitter for social media definitely puts us into 2 camps because it's just hard to articulate thoughts. That's why we're very fortunate to have something like a podcast where we can articulate our thoughts a little bit more. I think personally, both players could have handled that better. That's really what it boils down to. I think it was kind of I'm not going to say it was a circus of errors, but there was wrong decisions made in both sides of this situation. First things first, the player who won was running Jessica Timna. That person fetched for a Grand Abolisher. It was on the stack. You already saw the clip. But for context, that player also had known win in hand. It was Dockside with Curio. It was Dockside Curio loops. That game was about to be over. Simple, plain and simple. A Mindbreak Trap wouldn't have saved them against the Grand Abolisher. So that's the first problem. It does guarantee it opens everyone else up to being saved against the Grand Abolisher. All right, so that makes sure that if you Mindbreak Trap the Grand Abolisher, that still opens you up to still being able to somehow beat the incoming win attempt. So the Grand Abolisher itself wasn't the win attempt, it was the protecting of it. So they were kind of jumping the gun a little bit here. They were like, hey, use your Mindbreak Trap, and, let's make sure with the Mindbreak Trap you can get rid of the Grand Abolisher, then we can interact. And then the person with the Grand Abolisher says, no, you use it first. And then that classic game of chicken, like you said, was being brought out. That could have been handled so much better. I know it's a finals. I know it's been a long day. I'm not criticizing what they were saying, what they were doing, because in the same situation, if I was fatigued and I was nervous at the end of the day, it was being streamed to, over 100 people at the time.
So there's a lot of external factors.
There's a lot of external
factors. These people have been playing Magic for 10
Yeah.
hours.
And so I'm not saying, oh, why didn't they do this or why didn't they do that? Of course, we can say that with the benefit of hindsight and not being deep in the situation.
Now that we're at the time of publishing a week plus removed, nearly 2 weeks removed.
And so it's so much different now. And so really at the end of the day, when I look at the video that we showed earlier, really what I'm saying is 2 people were bullying at that table, not 1. The person with a Mindbreak Trap passing to the other person was saying, hey, I could stop the win attempt if you could stop this. And the person who was saying, don't pass to me, you use your Mindbreak Trap. Both of them were doing the exact same thing. There wasn't one who was trying to do something else to the other. They were doing the same. They're like, no, you use it. And then they're like, no, you use it. Like you said, classic chicken. They were both, they're both speeding towards each other. They're like, no, you turn first. No, you turn first. And neither of them did. And they both lost. And they were both bullying each other. And so at what point do you back down? And I think it became a little bit more of it started to transcend the game. It became more about who's going to win this fight and who's
this one little one-on-one stare down, this one little game of chicken.
Exactly. Who's going to win this game?
We could move on with the game.
Who's going to win this game of chicken? And I swear they almost forgot what they were doing. They almost forgot that they were trying to stop a win, and they were trying to more see who's going to back down. Now, in that situation, you know, who was right there, because they were both doing it. One was saying, I'm not going to cast it, you need to cast it. And the other one was saying, I'm not going to cast it, you need to cast it. They were both saying the same thing. One had a revealed Mindbreak Trap in hand. So therefore, that's why everyone is kind of piling or dogpiling on this person, because they're like, why didn't you just cast your spell? Be like, well, why didn't the other person? The game wasn't over. There was still a win attempt, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think really at the end of the day, I think that they were both bullying, and they both could have handled it much better. But once again, with context, it can't necessarily be that way. So my opinion is they probably should have just had a little bit more conversation, a little less arguing, and just said, hey, what are we going to do about this? And let's talk about it in a non-exploitative way. Let's make an ally out of each other for this round of priority instead of an enemy out of each other and try and exploit it.
Rather than trying to squabble.
Instead of squabbling, who's going to spend their interaction?
Let's simply focus on not losing the game first, rather than
Exactly.
Sure.
So I think kind of I'm in a very weird camp in this. I'm not pro or against or anything like that, because I definitely do it all the time too. I don't say you need to tap your Mox Opal to reset priority. I don't do that. But I definitely say, what are we going to do about this? Oh, you have something great. I'm going to pass it to you.
I'm gonna pass to you.
Oh, look, you had it. Good job. You saved the table. Stares at counterspell. You know, it's like,
yeah. Exactly.
And so, you know, as a CDH player who's been doing this for a long time, I know that that's a thing to do it. But it's you can approach this situation of priority with honey or with vinegar, and I think both players approached it with vinegar, and I think that was the problem. And I think if any of them just had a little bit more of a softer touch on it instead of that just that dead-eyed, you know, determination to beat the other, even though they were trying to fight a different enemy at the time, I think things could have turned out a lot differently. I wish it was black and white. It never is. This is such a complex game.
Yep.
And yeah,
exactly.
So that's my opinion on it.
We've both said our opinions on this topic of priority bullying, and I have, for maybe the first time ever on the Playing with Power podcast, I have a little bit of soapbox to get into, as we're finishing up the episode, Ryan, and that's about a lot of the terminology used around this situation. I saw another tweet kind of taking umbrage with there was the Ping, the player who eventually passed and quote unquote lost everybody the game, put out a statement that used a lot of some heavy usage of terms like bullying and gaslighting and this kind of stuff. And I think this is like a tough conversation to have, but I think there's a world in which we could use like some better terminology to use in the CEDH universe while we're trying to discuss these situations, because like, I get it. We know, those of us who have been in the CEDH community for a long time know what priority bullying is. When somebody says priority bullying, you know, a lot of us just have that boop, you know, ping, instantly know whatever that thing was that I had to spend like 3 minutes at the top of the podcast trying to string together. When people say mana bullying, a lot of people know what that is. For those of you who don't know what mana bullying is, which is something we've said a few times now, it's like truly taking priority bullying to its extreme, where you're saying, all right, I have interaction, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass to you over and over again. And every time I pass to you, you're going to tap down all of your resources. You're going to tap down all of your mana. And then when you're entirely tapped out through this hole in the rules that lets us reset priority, then I'll interact. That's something that used to be shockingly common in the CEDH community, 4 or 5 years ago. People don't really do that anymore.
Yes, they do. But yes,
no!
Some people do it. Yeah,
not to me.
They maybe knew better now than to deal with you, because you throw the game. No, I'm just kidding.
I was about to say I've thrown games to mana bullying before.
I have too.
But yes, exactly. But I think just bullying is a weird term to use. It's weird to use terms like gaslighting and that kind of stuff when we're coming to these conversations and that kind of stuff. And I wish we could even like the word like exploitation and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of weird to use these kind of words when we're talking about these situations. And I hope that and wish that we could develop like kind of some better parlance and some better terminology. I think that's a problem that the CEDH community has in general. We have like a lot of these terms that have been around for a long time that could have better alternatives, or even that are like easier to grok for people who are coming into the community. You know, like blue farm is a classic. What does blue farm mean? What is blue farm? I've heard blue farm before. You know, that's just like one of another thing. Even like there's continually problems with the moniker CEDH in the first place. Our problem starts at the very top and it goes down to the very bottom. And I wish that we had easier and perhaps more effective ways to discuss this topic without the term priority bullying or mana bullying or whatnot. Do I have solutions? No, but it's been a frustration of mine the last week. So I just wanted to get it out there.
I agree 100%. Basically, a large part of our problem is just the fact that we have inappropriate terminology attached to something that's is actually very normalized.
Yep.
You know, but when you attach monikers like gaslighting and bullying to it, all of a sudden you've got sides.
It becomes very bad. Yes,
you've
exactly.
Got sides.
You bring out the term bullying, even in this, like, we unexplicitly priority bully people all the time in CEDH games. But as soon as you bring out the term priority bullying, especially from people outside, I've seen a lot of people outside of the CEDH community go, priority bullying, what is that? People are bullying each other in CEDH games? That's crazy.
Yeah, you know? And so we need to drop these monikers. We need to drop the idea of priority bullying. We need to drop the idea of these bullying terminologies. And I think that will help people understand that this isn't something that people do to grasp power in this game or anything like that. That's not what this is. Like you said, it's just a rules thing that you're doing. And you can take it too far when it goes into the mana bullying part of it. And those are the things I don't stand for. I'll throw a game all day long if you try to exploit me, because I think that is exploitative, and we'll go in a loop. So I won't rehash, but basically, yes, we need to drop these monikers. We need to drop these ideas that any sort of passing of priority is bullying. That's not true. That is completely false. And we need to stop attaching the word bullying to everything, and then stop saying that every time somebody passes priority that they gaslight you, because that's not true either. Having conversations and politics are part of CEDH. It's part of what makes it great. It's part of what makes it better than 1v1 formats in cases. And people need to stop taking good parts of it and twisting them into bad parts of it, because one, it scares away outsiders. It scares away people that might be interested, but then you hear words like competitive and bullying and all this other stuff. They're like, gosh, that sounds awful. I don't want to do that. When in fact, it's politicking and conversation and socialization and, deep rules knowledge. And all of a sudden that sounds intriguing, but we attach all kinds of negative connotations to it, and suddenly people don't want to play. And it sounds horrible, and you feel bad when you shouldn't feel bad. That's not something that you should feel bad to do, saying, I want to pass priority to a person who might have it, because we have 4 players at this game. I agree with you 100%. I think that we need to start to rethink about how we're approaching these terms, and maybe start to take efforts to redefine what these things are called in a more appropriate way. And I think that would go a very long way into helping squash some of the misconceptions about some of the things like this that have been going on.
Not to use my now patented catchphrase, Ryan, but that makes a lot of sense. To the listeners, what is your opinion on priority bullying and mana bullying? We don't have new terms.
Yeah, not yet anyway. So sorry, that's all I got.
What is your opinion on using these tactics in game? Should they be a tool in our toolbox? Are they something to be avoided? Or, like Ryan alluded to a little bit earlier, is it much more complicated and you can entirely define how they're used, whether you approach your opponents with honey or vinegar? I liked it when you said it that way, Ryan. Make sure to give us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast aggregator. You'd be surprised how much it helps. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and more. All links are in the episode notes. That about wraps it up for this episode of the podcast. Tune in next time when we talk more about our favorite format and our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.